do about it?
Well, he was, let us say, just to be polite, rather disingenuous about a number of things. First of all, that is the CIA, and I think MI6 from Britain have had a hand in rebranding ISIS and all of these radical Islamists and making them into something else, at least on the surface, so that they could be utilized to attack the enemies that we have chosen. And those enemies are Iran and its Shiite supporters. So insofar as we've had a hand in that, I think it's a little ridiculous for him to say, well, we're keeping an eye on this because ISIS will take advantage of it. ISIS is there. ISIS is us, okay? And ISIS does have their eyes on Tikrit, on Mosul, on Kirkuk in northern Iraq, which, of course, are cities of great interest to the Turks, who view those cities as Turkish anyway. So if anything, what we've done now is we put the Kurds in this unenviable position of becoming a target for the Turkish military in the near future. The Turks now have the opportunity to flank and surround the Kurds down in Syria and drive headlong into them and throw them out of Syria entirely. And I think these are things that are being considered. As I said, on Turkish television, you see all these depictions of Greater Turkey, or the neo-Ottoman Turkish sphere of influence. All of it's readily available. I also disagree with him in terms of his strategic interests. We have always had an interest basically in two things. We have an interest in the flow of oil, maintaining the commercial access for ourselves and everybody else in the region, and in the preservation of Israel as a state. We have essentially said that's our national interest, which is one of the reasons I and several others were very critical of this terrible campaign in Gaza, because I don't think that's the way for Israel to survive. I think it's a way for Israel to go in the opposite direction, because no one in the region has forgotten that. Everyone in the region knows that they are, in the Israeli eyes, Amalek and subhuman. That's not a mystery. That's not gone away, and that's going to plague Israel as long as it exists. So I have a disagreement with what's strategically important. We need good relations with the Emirates, with Saudi Arabia, the various other players in the oil business. We want to keep that flowing, and we want to see Israel survive. The rest of this that he's talking about is nonsense. So I agree with you. I think at some point we're in a very difficult position. And that is probably going to be once the Turks have consolidated power and influence in Syria and begun to expand it into Iraq and Jordan. And those things are underway. It's going to take time. Same thing is true to a lesser extent for the Israelis. They've got to consolidate and control whatever they take over. That may not be easy. They may think so at this point, but it may not be. And again, the further you move away from your, let us say, your logistical supply points or your base, the more vulnerable you become. And moving all the way to Damascus may be very appealing and be greeted with cheers in Israel, but it creates new vulnerabilities. It raises new questions, and it potentially damages Israel's relations with others, particularly Turkey.
And in the last few minutes here, what is the risk for the United States if we don't withdraw those troops out of Syria? And they're there allegedly to help, to work hand in glove with the Syrian Democratic Forces, and the Turkish forces start moving out. We could be put in the position to where we may have to decide either to abandon the Syrian Democratic Forces or to actually fight the Turkish forces. What risk is there of that?
Well, I think the risk is very high, and I would dump all these terms that talk about democracy. That's all nonsense. There's no democracy anywhere. We ought to just forget it. The Turks want to rid themselves of the Kurdish problem. That's an inevitability. We're sitting there tied to the Kurds. So answer your own question. At some point, that becomes very dangerous for us. And if you expect the Israelis to intervene to save the Kurds or save us, you're out of your mind. That's not even up for discussion. They're going to sit on what they've got and what they think they can hold in the context of Greater Israel. So they're not going to do anything. So we're on our own. And I agree with you. I've never liked these penny packets of U.S. soldiers on the ground. I don't care how many mercenaries are with them. I don't care how many intelligence officials are out there, it's very dangerous. And I think it could blow up in our faces, not immediately, but over time. And again, who anticipated what we saw happen in Syria? Maybe somebody in the intelligence community knew about it. Certainly in the CIA, they knew this is what they were working for, but nobody was going to warn anyone or tell anything about anything because we wanted this to happen. Well, it's happened. We've created this new whirlwind. The question is, do we escape from it, or are we going to be consumed by it? It's too soon to tell. And the same question has to be answered by the Israelis.
Indeed, it does. And we'll leave it there for now. But we are going to keep a close eye on this and look forward to having you back real soon to talk about whatever happens next as we get closer to that date. So first of all, just thank you for coming back on. We always appreciate you coming here. But before we let you go, actually, I wonder, is there anything new in Our Country, Our Choice? What's happening with your organization down there?
Well, I think most of our members are getting ready for Christmas. We're trying to prepare for some things. We're trying to put some shows together for January 2025, and we're continuing to build out and expand this Republic platform. And as I always say, that is the free speech instrument inside the United States from which you can't be censored or thrown off. So whatever you do, get on that platform, because once you join as a member, you have a communications network that is readily made for you and your organization and the people like you that will reach everyone all over the country. In fact, we're seeing more and more people from abroad take an interest in this and try to figure out how they can essentially extend it into their countries, places like Sweden, Germany, Austria, even France, Italy. So we'll see. It's very exciting. And I invite everybody to go to Republic and look it over, see what's there. I think you'll like it. And it's time to get on the ground floor as this thing grows. I only see it growing larger. I don't see anything to hold it back.
Well, that's often. We certainly applaud that and recommend people go and do that. We're actually going to have some materials to be sharing with our folks here. We have a lot of international folks watch this, and the fact that it's not just something for the United States, I think will appeal to a lot of them, and we'll be sharing some of those details in the very near future as well. So thanks for coming on, Doug, and thanks for all this update. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
And we appreciate you guys too. Be sure and like and subscribe to our channel if you're new to it. If you haven't been here before, we'd love to have you come back. Also, let you know that at 3 o'clock this afternoon, U.S. Eastern time, Larry Johnson's going to be coming on, and he's going to look at the back at this situation in Syria from a different lens and perspective of, has the U.S. been supporting freedom or sponsoring terrorism in this situation here? The answers may disturb some people, but if you want the truth, turn back in today at 3 p.m., and we'll see you then on Daniel Davis Deep Dive.